Hi, I'm Unruly Anime. The story begins with our protagonist, Yuki, complaining about having to clean up every morning at school. His so-called friends, who look like nerds and are making fun of Yuki, have a good laugh. This is because they can take it easy since Yuki is practically Mr. Clean and has unparalleled cleaning skills. Just then, all the girls arrive late to school as always, but the boys can't do anything about it since they are not granted powers like the girls are. Unlike boys, girls are able to gain powers simply by eating peaches. Yuki points out how useless his life is since all boys are playing life on hard mode from the second they are born. Our boy Yuki finds ways to make himself useful, as one of his buddies asks him to fix a button on his suit like guys tend to do. Yuki pulls out his super manly sewing kit and fixes it up with lightning speed, like a human sewing machine, amazing all his friends. However, the little nerd points out that his sewing skills don't help him get any ladies. Yuki's older sister taught him how to sew because boys are pretty worthless since they don't receive the benefits of the peaches. She taught him well, but she was pretty abusive about it, as she would choke him straight into unconsciousness if he didn't do it right. Yuki's side character friend wonders about his sister, but he is told by the other little nerd that it's a sensitive topic. It's almost time for Yuki to start looking for a career, but he begins to wonder if that's all there really is to life. Between having to work a dead-end job and all that sewing he does, he will be a useless sweep forever. Yuki snaps out of this depressive state of mind and assures himself that there is something more out there, a place where he can make a difference without having to sew a single thing. Just then, the area becomes really foggy, and a strong gust of wind pushes him back. When the fog clears, Yuki realizes that it's his worst nightmare. He has appeared in a place called Mato. He begins to freak out and searches for his phone to bring out the Mato instruction manual. Mato refers to an alternate dimension accessible via gateways, also known as doors. These doors suddenly appeared throughout Japan. Damages and injuries sustained as a result of monsters known as Shuki entering their world or civilians accidentally wandering into Mato are referred to as Mato mishaps. This little history lesson is good and all, but what's really important is what he needs to do now. When a civilian finds themselves in Mato, they're supposed to stay wherever they are and wait for the Demon Defense Force to rescue them. The terrified Yuki plans to do just that, but one of these horrifying Shuki appears to attack him. Yuki runs for his life from the monsters that look like they're straight out of Bleach, but he arrives at a dead end, and several more Shuki appear. Yuki determines that he can't sew his way out of this one, so he has the bright idea to throw a rock at the creature. This shockingly accomplishes nothing and just gets him mad. Yuki then imagines what his body would look like after getting sliced up by this thing. He won't be able to sew himself back together, but he explains that he doesn't want his life to end this way. The demon isn't listening to his concerns at all, as it's about to destroy him. But just then he is saved by a girl riding on a Shuki. This girl calls him unlucky for getting attacked so fast and initiates a fight with all the other beasts. She slices a bunch of the low-level demons in half with their swords, but she sees that the Shuki she was riding just had its arms ripped off. She knew the dumb thing would be too weak, so she continues taking care of business on her own. Her name is Kyouka, and she is the commander of the 7th Squadron. In the Demon Defense Force, she tells Yuki to stay back, but he makes himself super useful by pointing out that things are getting worse by the second. Kyouka takes control of one of the Shuki by putting a chain around its neck, and the two get out of there. They are chased soon after, but Himari, Nei, and Shushu arrive to back up their commander. They report that there are no other survivors, so Nei checks their surroundings again. She finds that a horde of low-level monsters is approaching quickly, so Kyouka tells them to handle it while she takes the boy to safety. The girls instantly handle business as Himari does her best impression of Mega Man and transforms her hand into some kind of Gatling gun to put a bunch of holes in the demons. Shushu won't be outdone, and she shows off her ability to grow into a giant like she's one of the Avengers. It becomes pretty apparent to Yuki that of all the girls that are able to get power from peaches, these girls are the cream of his crop. Yuki has only heard rumors about the Demon Defense Force, but seeing them in action now amazes him. The girls finish up the hollows from Bleach, and we see that they found an unconscious boy. They assume that their commander made it back to the dorm already, so they decide to go and check if the last site has been cleared before heading home. The little boy wakes up, but instead of being grateful for them saving him, he just looks around for his sister. Elsewhere, we see that the commander hasn't made it back yet, and she is busy reminding Yuki about the most important rule. When a civilian finds himself in a Mato mishap, they're supposed to keep their mouth shut. Just then, they must stop as they come across the girl that Yuuki remembers seeing just before going through the gate. This girl is just about to learn an important lesson from gravity, but luckily she is saved by Kyouka. Kyouka's Shuki slave is way too slow, so they have to abandon it, and she begins fighting all the demons chasing them. Yuuki bravely protects the girl, but he must be saved as well. Kyouka quickly raises the A barrier and tells them not to wet themselves, but the demons are beginning to break through. Things are looking bad even for Kyouka, and she begins to think about how she got stuck with a lousy ability. A look into the past shows some girls gossiping about her. She is known for being strong, but her ability stinks, and they are certain she will never be Supreme Commander. Kyouka's determined to prove those dumb girls wrong and vows to one day rule over all the commanders. Time is running out, and she thinks about doing something crazy. She has never tested her ability on a man before, so she has a serious decision to make. She tells Yuuki that she needs something from him in order for them to escape. So of course the little dweeb is eager to do whatever it takes to survive. He doesn't get what he expected, as Kyouka informs him that he's going to be her slave. The process seems like it might be a little risky. However, as Kyouka tells the little girl to get out of the way and close her eyes, Kyouka explains that if Yuuki had enhanced strength, they would have a shot at making it out of there alive. Yuuki can't believe that she wants him to fight the demons, but the Kyouka man handles him and reminds him that he said he would do whatever it takes. She then explains that it's time for him to bow down to her. These words hit Yuuki like a train, and despite never even having touched a girl before, he reacts on instinct. Yuuki holds her finger out to him, and for some strange reason, his instincts tell him to lick it the second his disgusting tongue touches her probably dirty finger. Chains of energy surround him. Immense power bursts out of his body, and Yuuki transforms into a crazy-looking demon. There is the Mesa. See that it actually worked. The other girls arrive and are shocked to see that their commander has turned him into her slave. Yuuki is insanely powerful, as he slices right through a demon, and things have worked out way better than Kyouka could have imagined. Kyouka mounts him and commands him to show her what he's got. Yuuki then starts ripping all the demons to shreds like a boss. Kyouka throws in some commands for good measure, and she is stunned by how fast he is. Kyouka reunites the little siblings, but everyone is startled when the demons start doing some reuniting of their own. The giant lump of demons becomes a huge demon, so Kyouka sends the others home so she can take care of business with Yuuki. She commands him to crush the giant, so Yuuki bursts right through the little rock it was carrying. He dodges all of its attacks and trims a bit off the top of the demon's body. The thing blows up in a huge way, leaving all the girls that apparently haven't left yet to wonder who in the world this guy is. Kyouka ends her ability and reverts Yuuki back to his very average and plain self. Kyouka declines the other girl's offer to return home like a jerk because she needs to have a very important and secret conversation with her new toy. She reveals that he surprised her, as she never would have guessed that an average Joe like him had it in him to turn into such a beast. She wants to make his job as her slave a permanent arrangement, but that statement alone makes our boys speechless. Before any of that, there's an important caveat to her ability. She wasn't kidding, as she planted a kiss right on Yuuki's face. She pretty and fairly calls him a pervert and explains that this is the price of her ability. Since she is the master, she must, without exception, compensate her slave with the reward. As if that weren't crazy enough, the reward must be one that equals the work her slave does. Each time he carries out a task, Yuuki's heart is pounding out of his chest, and he can't believe that his reward was a kiss. Kyouka explains that he worked really hard out there and, shockingly, offers to give him another kiss. Yuuki freaks out as she has given him plenty to dream about already, and he declines the offer. He does probably the most awkward thing anyone can do in this moment, and he accidentally hits her in the face. Kyouka sympathizes with him and explains that she wasn't expecting the situation either. When the Shuki were her slaves, they only wanted slices of pork as a reward. Yuuki, on the other hand, is a disgusting pervert, and she reveals that in these moments, her body moves automatically, regardless of how she feels about it. It's the price she must pay for her ability, so she plants another kiss on him. Afterwards, Yuuki makes the dimmest looking face, as he is still stunned to have just had his first kiss. Kyouka gets really serious as she explains that if even just one of the Shuki were to appear in the real world, there would be dozens of casualties. Her goal is to become Supreme Commander and exterminate the vile creatures for good. The current Supreme Commander is a loser and far too lenient. With Yuki's help, she is sure that she can reach her goal, so she insists that he work for her. Yuuki surprises absolutely no one when he reveals that he isn't good at stuff like sports or academics. All he is confident in is his ability to be a maid and keep a house sparkling clean. That isn't a problem for Kyouka, as she is all for a dude who knows how to clean. Aside from that, Yuuki showed a lot of bravery when trying to save the girl. Even though he was just being a meat shield, Kyouka thinks he isn't too bad for a guy. So Yuuki finally finds some courage and declares that he wants to be a hero. Yuuki only has a life of monotony and mediocrity waiting for him in the real world. In this world, he can turn into a monster that looks like something from Attack of the Titans and Bleach. For the first time ever, he feels like he can avenge his sister's death. Most importantly, the little perp says it will all be worth it as long as he gets his reward from Kyouka. Soon after they go to the demon defense for Dawn, Yuuki passes through the barrier and prepares to become a prestigious member of the force. Yuuki enters with a completely new outlook on life. He is a totally different man now, and he confidently stands before the girls, awaiting his introduction. The girls just wonder who the nerd is, and Kyouka just introduces him as the caretaker. She explains that during battle he will be her slave, but at the dorm he is the girl's caretaker. Some of these girls have never even seen a boy before, but Kyouka explains that they're all very skilled fighters. They all have colorful personalities, so their caretakers don't usually stick around for long. Yuuki is the perfect fit because he is as dull as it gets, and he is great at cleaning. Yuuki is furious since he thought he was going to be on the Demon Defense Force, but Kyouka explains that men are not allowed to join. She instructs the girls to make him feel at home, so they waste no time telling him to do chores. Yuuki can hardly keep up, but Nei is the only nice one among them and tells him that everything will be okay. The others are quick to point out that the little girl has superiority over him, so he better not disobey her. Yuuki's dreams of having a meaningful life have been shattered as he goes into a deep depression for having to obey the orders of a child. Things might not be so bad, as Kyouka kindly welcomes him to the squadron. Sometime later, Yuuki proudly finishes up doing his cleaning thing, but he thinks about how the scenery doesn't look so great in Mato, just as Shuki, who thinks it's being sneaky, tries to attack Yuuki. The barrier stops the stupid Shuki from Bleach, and Nei arrives to check if he is okay. She explains that the 7th Squadron is in Mato's unlucky southwest area. That is why more Shuki appeared there than at other dorms. The Mato is an alternate dimension that's as big as the city of Tokyo, and it's divided into 8 locations. Each one also has its own demon defense force. Nei considers herself his teacher, but Yuuki isn't sure if he can get used to a child being his superior. Yuuki ignores that for the moment as he wonders if they should do something about the Shuki that's just been hanging around there awkwardly. But Nei explains that it's just a small fry and they can just ignore it. Himari doesn't agree with her, apparently, as she goes all ballistic on the Shuki and lights it up with her Gatling gun. Yuuki is upset that she almost hit them, but Himari points out that if she wanted to hit him, he would already be filled with bullets. Himari tells him to get to work on dinner and reminds him that he's only there because of Kyouka. Yuuki begins to think that being a caretaker really stinks, and he has a strange feeling like he senses someone. That night, everyone raves over Yuuki, the chef's cooking skills, and even his poor attitude. Himari wants another serving. He feels great after all the compliments and even keeps a good attitude when they remind him of all his other duties. The dummy gets back to work, but finally remembers that he wanted to be a hero, not a handyman. Yuuki brings up his concerns about just doing chores all day, but Kyouka explains that she will use him in battle when needed. She instructs him to focus on housekeeping until then, and when he finally sticks up for himself, Himari threatens to slice his head off. Kyouka acknowledges that the others might be uncomfortable with a male caretaker, but Yuki's really good at cleaning, and he is also vital to her ability. She asks that they all try to be nice to him and tells them not to worry since she will rip off his manhood if he does anything wrong. That night, Shushu, who has shrunk to her tiny self, thinks she just caught Yuuki spying on one of the girls, so she threatens to tell the commander. Shushu explains that her ability allows her to grow or shrink, and she takes an incriminating picture. She was curious about Yuuki, so she has been keeping a close eye on him. Yuuki tries to clear things up by explaining that he was just cleaning, but she isn't interested in any of his excuses. Yuuki assumes that she is trying to blackmail him for money, but she just likes to keep things interesting. She wants him to be her slave, but he tries to explain that he is already a slave. Shushu forces him to clean her room, and his attempt at deleting the picture fails. She tells him to do her laundry as well, but that just gives her another opportunity to paint a misleading picture. While Yuuki walks around, depressed about being bullied, he finds Kyouka and Himari training outside. Just then, a Shuki appears, and Kyouka uses the opportunity to show Himari how it's done. She absolutely destroys the low-budget anime monster, shocking Yuuki and amazing Himari. Yuuki can't believe how she insta-killed it, and he realizes that he can never get on her bad side. Nei arrives and reveals she will be living with Himari at a meeting, so he will be left with Shushu to protect the door. That night, Shushu forces him to give her a massage and reveals that she grew up without a father. She came to Mato looking for excitement, even though it meant risking her life. The two decide to play some video games, but Yuuki warns her that he's pretty good. They make a little bet, which Yuuki is hesitant to accept at first, but eventually decides that he will win and make her apologize for treating him so poorly. He actually loses every game, and he ends up losing his shirt because of it. Just then, the two must rush outside, as a giant Shuki has appeared to attack the barrier. Yuuki thinks they should stay back, but Shushu shows just how big she can get. Yuuki does his best to keep up, but these giants are quickly about to fight. This crazy monster tries to battle it out with Shushu, but she easily grabs it and smashes it straight into the ground. Yuuki is then amazed when she easily overpowers it. Shushu sends it flying, only to punch it down and crush it beneath her feet. Shushu shrinks down a bit, as being that size is completely exhausting. Just as she celebrates her victory, another giant blob of a monster attacks her. A bunch more Shuki merge with it to make it even bigger, and Shushu quickly realizes that things could get bad if she doesn't end the fight. Now she tries to use her ability to grow even more, but it doesn't work for some reason. The monsters eventually grab her so she can't move, and the giant lands a punch. Yuuki is completely hopeless and can only watch as the giant monster takes the upper hand with another powerful punch. Yuuki wishes he could transform in this moment, but it's impossible without Kyouka. He wishes there was something he could do, and he remembers that he transformed when his lips touched Kyouka's hand. This genius gets the bright idea to kiss something that she owns, so he rushes to the laundry room. Licking her glove fails, but it did start the transformation, so he is on the right track. Shoving his face in her shirt transforms his foot, but he needs something that will give a stronger reaction. He eventually finds her boots, but he really begins to question what this says about him as a person. Things are getting really bad for Shushu outside, so he rushes out there with Kyouka's boot. There's no time left, so he must act now if he really wants to be a hero, even if it means licking a boot. Yuuki, sadly, does just that, and power erupts from his body. Back at the fight, Shushu realizes that she must have pushed herself too far by transforming into her jumbo size. The monster shows no signs of slowing down, but Shushu realizes that her body will transform back to its normal size soon. Just then, a partially transformed Yuuki rushes towards her and is determined to try his best. Despite not being at full power, Shushu keeps the thing from moving, giving Yuuki the perfect target. He unleashes a powerful kick, absolutely destroying this thing's head and winning the battle. Shushu thinks he was being too reckless by fighting at half power, but Yuuki did it because she called him a wimp and told him to stay back before the fight. Afterwards, Kyouka works on fixing up Yuuki's body, since there are some pretty painful repercussions for forcing a transformation on his body. The others mock him for being out of commission after just a couple minutes of combat, but he points out that he just hasn't learned how to use his power yet. He wonders if they should be fixing the barrier, but Kyouka reveals that barriers protecting important locations have special attributes. So long as the damage is minor, it will repair itself. Yuuki realizes that this explains what happened when the Shuki attacked earlier as well. Kyouka gets back to working on our boy's back, but it's super painful. and he wonders if this is his reward for protecting the door. Kyouka scolds Shushu for underestimating their opponent and instructs her to help Yuuki with his chores as punishment. When they leave, Shushu reveals that she has even more incriminating photos, so she will continue being his master. Yuuki realizes how bad things are getting for him and wonders if he will ever be free. Elsewhere, we see that a barrier gets shattered. Another demon force arrives to find the cause, and one of them tells the others to inform their commander. The remaining girl prepares to fight the thing, but realizes that her opponent is no ordinary Shuki. The beast completely ignores her attack to grab the two that were running away and reveals itself to knock the first girl back. This Mega Shuki prepares to eat her, but a mysterious person orders it to stop. As this mysterious lady mounts the Shuki, she explains that she can feel Yuki's presence somewhere in Mato, and it's time to pay him a visit. Sometime later, Kyouka takes Yuuki through a gateway and has him wait for her, as she has important paperwork to take care of. Yuuki can't believe how crazy interdimensional travel is, since it only took a 50-minute drive on the other side to get here. Kyouka eventually returns, so she tells her boy to enjoy the fresh air while he can. Since time off doesn't come very often, Yuuki wonders where they are going, but he gets no answer from the very serious Kyouka. Back in Mato, Shushu looks for Yuuki and is told that the commander took him through the Yamagata passage. She is a bit surprised at first, but remembers that today is a tragic day. Back with Yuuki, Kyouka takes him to a cemetery. She explains that a while ago there was an incident where dozens of Shuki wandered into this world. And one of them was especially powerful. Kyouka remembers that day vividly, and she describes this powerful behemoth as having a single horn. This really stuck out to her as a child, while this thing massacred her hometown, so she called it the Mega Shuki. All the Shuki that crossed over that day were wiped out by the demon defense force that arrived to help. However, after looking through the record, Kyouka discovered that Mega Shuki managed to escape. It was the only Shuki to do so, and it used the gateway to return to Mato. This unicorn is still alive, and Kyouka gets furious as she explains that she has been escorted to settle against the powerful demon. She vows to wipe it from existence, and Kyouka wants Yuuki to make sure that he is prepared for when that day comes. This is the reason she brought him to the cemetery, as she wanted to show him all the people she would avenge. Afterwards, the time to return the Mato has come, but Yuuki would like to take a little break. Yuuki checked some Yelp previews and learned that this cafe nearby is famous for its sundae. Kyouka explains that returning Mato is more important, but she is easily convinced by a picture of a great-looking sundae. Kyouka is actually surprised by his assertiveness, but she is still more concerned with Mato. Yuuki reveals that he lost his sister in a Mato mishap, so he can understand how Kyouka feels. Yuuki is quite the smart kid, as he points out that she will miss her chance for revenge if she burns herself out. Kyouka realizes that he isn't just assertive, he is also persuasive. Kyouka thinks the sundae tastes amazing, and her smile brings Yuuki some memories of his sister. They always got along really well, and she would always encourage him to learn things like cooking and cleaning. Just then, Kyouka gets an emergency call from Mato. It's not life-threatening, but something serious is definitely happening. Break time is suddenly over, and Kyouka has Yuuki transform. His demon form gets them back quickly, and Kyouka rewards him because that's just part of how her power works. At the meeting, Kyouka is informed that a discovery was made during patrols. A crater-like formation appeared nearby, along with a large number of Shuki. Yuuki takes one look at the iPad and is shocked to see hundreds of Shuki on the radar. Kyouka is even amazed, as she has never seen anything like this before. Nei uses her ability to reveal that the Shuki are not leaving and seem to be making some kind of nest. Wiping all this Shuki out will be a huge undertaking for their squadron, and Yuuki is fired up. Kyouka declares that they will be taking 3 vehicles, and Yuuki is shocked to find that he is considered one of these vehicles. Yuuki takes off ahead of the others, and they just call him a wild beast. Yuuki and Kyouka arrive at the crater, and he thinks about how horrible it would be if someone got stuck in there with all the Shuki. He wants to start taking them out, but Kyouka tells them to wait for her signal. The others start attacking first, and Kyouka explains that if the Shuki merge, then it will be easier than taking them down one by one. If Shuki are tough but their fighting style is simple, as long as they stick to their strategy, it will be impossible for them to lose. Kyouka tells Yuki to be ready since they will begin their attack once a giant Shuki reaches its peak size. Just then, the powerful beam comes out of nowhere and strikes Shushu. A look at where it came from reveals that it was a single-horned beast. Kyouka instantly recognizes it as the one that massacred all those people, and it attacks them. It absolutely destroys their truck, and the girl mounted on it announces that she has joined the party. Himari is surprised that the girl can talk since she thought she was a monster, but this just gets the girl upset. She fires a massive attack, but Himari just manages to block it by transforming her arm into a shield. The attack proves to be too powerful, as Himari's shield is destroyed and she gets hit by the devastating beam. Yuki and Kyouka quickly moved in for an attack, and they managed to push back the unicorn. The girl is pleased with their power, but Kyouka is furious to once again be face to face with the unicorn. The girl is amused that they have a nickname for the demon, and Yuki is stunned by how terrifying the beast looks, the one that destroyed Kyouka's hometown. Everyone on their team is in really bad shape, and Kyouka demands to know who the girl is. This girl explains that she is the Demon Defense Force's arch-enemy, and Kyouka is shocked when she pulls out the Mato peach. This girl wonders if Kyouka has seen her little brother anywhere. Kyouka doesn't answer. This girl uses the peach as a distraction to land a sneak attack, but Yuki just manages to stop it. Our duo uses some kind of combo move, but it does nothing to the girl. She explains that her younger brother always followed her around when they were younger, but the instant he got a little older, he turned into a rascal. As this girl takes the upper hand in the fight, she explains that her brother getting older just meant that she could start to knock some manners into him. Yuki can't tell if this girl is a Shuki or not, but he knows for sure that she is far different than any other opponent he has ever encountered. The girl prepares to say her little brother's name, but she is interrupted by all the Shuki that have just finished combining into a huge giant. This girl could not be angrier about the interruption, but this just reminds Yuki of his sister. The girl is furious to have been interrupted while talking about her brother, and she instantly squashes the giant beast. She feeds the demon's remains to the unicorn, and Kyouka just now realizes that she must be the supreme commander of the Shuki. The girl is disappointed that they clearly don't know anything about the motto, and she easily dodges our hero's attack. She explains that this is a world full of curses and separates Kyouka from Yuki with an attack. The girl is impressed that Kyouka has such a powerful Shuki and takes hold of him. Yuki is terrified that she's going to crush him like she did the giant, but the girl is stunned. She realizes that he isn't a Shuki at all. She reaches for him, but Kyouka jumps back into the fight to push her back. Kyouka managed to do some damage and moved in for another attack, but the unicorn stopped her. They make their escape, but Kyouka demands that the cowards come back. Kyouka has completely given in to her rage, since if they want to run from her, then she will just do exactly what the unicorn did to all the fleeing villagers. She vows to tear them apart from behind. But when she turns to look for Yuki, she sees that he is busy helping their team. Kyouka sucks up her pride and tells Yuki that Himari and Shushu's safety is their top priority, so they will pull back for now. Kyouka regrets letting her rage take over, as she now realizes that it almost cost her squad mates. When they return to the dorm, Kyouka explains that their team's wounds are light and they will be fully recovered by the next day. The little weirdo's reward this time is being stepped on, and Yuki himself becomes terrified by the demands of his inner psyche. Yuki apologizes for letting the unicorn get away, but Kyouka doesn't blame him, as getting their team out safely was more important. She determined that the girl must be a new species of Shuki. She can't believe that one of them can understand their language now, and it's certain that this news will shock the world. Yuki then surprises her when he explains that he thinks the girl looks a lot like his sister. She also had a strange reaction when she saw his face. Kyouka doubts it, since no human could be that strong. On top of that, no one has ever heard of a human becoming a Shuki. While cooking, Yuki still wonders if it was his sister. The problem is that he can't understand how she managed to survive or why she would be fighting against the Demon Defense Force. He has no clue what to do if he sees her again, but he must snap back to reality to finish up his cooking. Nei has him kneel down to handle some business as his superior, and she punches him right in the face for putting everyone in danger. With that out of the way, She understands that he fought hard to protect everyone and tells him that she will take care of dinner so he can rest up. He helps her cook anyway and decides that he will figure out what to do about the demon girl later, as he has work to do now. Elsewhere, we learn that the girl's name is Aoba. She is made fun of for coming back with injuries, but their healer named Coco fixes her right up. Aoba is certain that the monster she fought was her brother Yuuki, but she can only wonder how he ended up looking like a Shuki. She thought they didn't like guys in the Demon Defense Force, but regardless of that, she enjoyed their lit reunion. After a bath, Yuuki accidentally walks in on Himari, so she prepares to end his life. However, just then, a gateway surprisingly opens up, and two girls appear. One is the commander of the 6th Squad, named Azumo, and the other is her second-in-command, named Asuma. They're very interested in Yuuki, who is becoming quite popular. When everyone meets, Izuma compliments Kyouka for having a slave that can make a mean cup of coffee. The Supreme Commander has sent out a message regarding the appearance of the vicious humanoid Shuki, so Izuma has come to discuss it. All squadrons usually act independently, but moving forward, the Demon Defense Force will be more cohesive. Izuma is a real jerk, as she mocks Omari for fainting during the battle against the humanoid. She calls her a coward and tells her that she is dragging their family's reputation through the mud. Izuma tells her to just give up on our dreams and to come home with her. In reality, Izuma points out that the humanoid Shuki is actually quite strong. Kyouka agrees and can understand why they have all been ordered to work together. Izuma expresses her confidence in teaming up with Kyouka, but she doesn't have any trust in Kyouka's team. She rudely says that she won't name any names, but there is someone that she is sure will slow them down. Kyouka gets an idea and points out that it's important for them to assess each other's strengths. In order to do this, she recommends that they hold an inter-squad motto exhibition match. Everyone is shocked, and Yuki's dumb brain immediately thinks of a sports match. Thankfully, Nei corrects him and informs him that it's actually a contest of strength and skill between squadrons. Kyouka would like for it to be single combat, so Izuma agrees. Izuma will have to make preparations first, so they leave. Just then, Himari asks Kyouka to help her prepare for the match. Kyouka explains that it won't be easy, but Himari proclaims that as long as it means she will win, she will do whatever it takes. Kyouka agrees and tells her to start training right away. Himari then turns to Yuuki and reveals that what their agreement really meant was that Yuuki would be her slave. Now, after the girls enjoy Yuki's cooking, he reveals that his secret ingredient was chicken fat. Himari calls him a great slave, so he wonders how that ended up happening in the first place. The answer is simple. It's for the sake of the motto exhibition, and Himari declares that she has to win. Kyouka knew that Azuma's attitude struck a nerve, so this match gives Himari the opportunity to teach her a lesson. As they travel for training, Yuki still can't figure out how he ended up being Himari's slave. Himari reveals that transforming parts of her body into weapons isn't actually her main ability. She shows her real power by showing Yuki her phone, but it just looks like some kind of trading card game. Himari explains that her ability is called learning. This means she can learn other people's abilities and use them herself. Yuki points out how overpowered that is, and Himari goes on to say that all she has to do is select a person's ability on her phone and implement it. She has the commander selected now, so she can use Kyouka's abilities. Yuki wonders if Himari knows all the details of Kyouka's ability, but all she knows is that it's physically demanding. Himari thinks it just means that she will have to take over the cleaning and laundry, and she proclaims that she doesn't mind doing that stuff as long as she beats her sister. Just then, they're surrounded by Shuki, so Himari has Yuki transform. Yuki points out that he warned her already, so he transforms, but the process this time is a bit different. This time he is in a different shape compared to when the commander does it, and Demon Yuki is much faster. He thinks about how he can move with lightning speed in this form, and he is even faster than Kyouka. The main drawback is that he clearly isn't as strong, but he decides to just work with what he has. Yuki uses his immense speed and unleashes an insane barrage of punches. Himari is, of course, amazed and becomes confident that Yuki can help her beat her sister. After Yuki finishes up destroying the Shuki, he wonders why Himari chose this ability over any other ones that she could choose. Himari explains that it's because this gives Yuki a chance to be useful. She begins to tell him that he should be grateful, but she stops when she finds out the price for using Kyouka's ability. After Yuki is rewarded for his work, he explains that Himari would be better off using a different ability. Himari says that she would if she could, But there's a compatibility component to her learning power. It degrades the quality of most abilities to the point that they become useless. For example, if she were to use Shushu's growing abilities, then only her nose would grow by an inch. Yuuki reminds her of the price for using Kyouka's abilities, but Himari just accepts it. Yuuki wants to know why she is so desperate to beat her sister, so she gives him a little history lesson. She was born into a very influential family with major accomplishments and motto. All her older sisters were successful, so everyone had high hopes for Himari. However, she would often overexert herself before a big event and get hurt, or she would get nervous and come down with a fever. She has never had any results to show for it, and Yuuki thinks about how he can relate. The weakness in her power was also well known, so she would always get teased when she couldn't keep up with her sisters. This is her first chance since she cut ties with her family to prove them wrong about her. Himari demands that Yuuki cooperate, and he thinks about how hard it is to help someone who can't even ask politely. Himari then reveals that her ultimate goal is to become a hero, just like their commander. She hopes that she will become a new version of herself if she can beat Azuma. Himari wants a different side of her to shine, and Yuuki can relate to that as well. Himari points out that there's only one thing missing for the fight, and that is a finishing move to demolish their enemy. Now that Yuuki actually uses his brain to think about it, he realizes that all he has been doing so far is mindlessly punching and kicking everything within sight like a maniac. He has his own reasons for wanting to become stronger, and he begins to wonder if Himari is the key to opening a new path. Yuuki is convinced and agrees to help her. Himari reminds him that he is her slave and explains that her sister's power is called the Golden Hour. She can control time, including freezing it and rewinding it. After hearing this, the once very confident and optimistic Yuuki realizes that they are screwed at the other squadron's door. Azuma can sense that her sister is talking about her. She vows that she will put Himari in her place at the Mato exhibition and cannot be more excited for that day. During practice, Himari reveals that while Azuma's power is undoubtedly dangerous, she will get tired if she uses it too many times, and that is how they will win. Yuuki points out that just the fact that Azuma can use her ability more than once is a huge problem, but there is more. Himari explains that Azuma strikes a weird pose to trigger her ability, as it's a routine that supposedly enhances her skills. Because of this, Yuuki recommends that they use his blistering speed for their finishing move. Himari agrees and plans to use an ultra-fast maneuver that won't even give Azuma time to freeze or rewind time. It will also have to have enough force to knock Azuma out of the fight completely. Yuuki tries out a swift step forward into a head punch, but it needs to be polished into a deadly blow that can't be dodged. Himari has Yuuki channel all his strength into a single part of his body, so he does it to his legs, and they get huge. Just and Shuki's appear just in time to serve as practice dummies. Yuuki's giant legs make him even faster than before, but his first attempt at a special move doesn't go so well. After defeating all the Shuki again, Yuuki realizes that he overdid it. As his legs are exhausted, it's clear that he lost all his arm strength since he poured all his energy into his legs. Himari determines that he just needs to keep experimenting with it until he perfects his technique and rewards him, this time with a nice little pat on his head. Kyouka arrives at their next training session, and she's amazed to see that Yuuki really does look different. She also compliments Himari for thinking about a good finishing move, but wonders why she's watching him from so far away. Kyouka reminds her that there is a fundamental essence to using her ability and tells her to make her proud as she leaves. Her words make their way through Himari's mind, so she mounts Yuuki and explains that she will be riding him during the exhibition match. Himari thinks about how Kyouka's ability requires that she control her slave, not just sit back and coach him. Himari grabs a hold of his chains and orders him to channel his strength into his legs. Yuuki does, and he strangely notices that he feels more power flowing through him than before. Himari orders him to crush the first Yuuki they see, and his attack destroys it easily. Yuuki can't even believe what he just did, and they realize that it's the foolproof finishing move that they were working towards. Yuuki isn't sure if he can replicate it, but luckily for them, there are plenty of practice dummies appearing to help out. After defeating them all, Yuuki's a million times more worn out than usual. Yuuki receives his next reward and vows to master this new technique so he can put it to use again in the future. A sweet training montage begins, and it shows how Yuuki gets more and more powerful. On the day of the exhibition match, Azuma and the others arrive. Izuma can tell that Himari has something planned, but she tries to put that in her mind, as she doesn't think her sister will be able to pull it off. Himari gets a bit flustered, but Yuuki arrives to tell them that the match will begin soon. Yuuki can tell that Himari is bothered, so he tells her not to worry and reminds her that they train their butts off. Himari's confidence is restored, and she guarantees that they will win. When everyone's ready, they all write their names down, so a girl named Gina can use her ability. It allows her to create a barrier by drawing a line on the ground that acts as a boundary. Only those who sign their names can enter. Furthermore, any damage sustained during combat inside the barrier will be healed. Gina will serve as the referee, and she is just glad that she can witness the Demon Defense Force in action. Not everyone believes that Peach's grant power is based on their nature and knowledge, but she does. Because of this, she is excited to see everyone's powers. Gina's barrier can withstand the power of 1,000 Shuki, and they're also counting on her to judge the fight. Yuki can obviously tell that Gina's a Demon Defense Force fangirl, but this also means that she hates men. Nei counts as a non-fighter, so her job is to cheer on her teammates. Right off the bat, round 1 will be between Himari and Izuma. The rules are that whoever gives up or gets knocked out first loses. Injuries will be healed, so they are encouraged to go all out. Izuma plans to drag Himari back home when she beats her, but Himari explains that she isn't the same person she was back then. She declares that she will win and has Yuki transform. Izuma won't deny a dog handler the right to use her dog in battle, so she allows Yuki to take part in the fight. With both sides ready, the match begins. Izuma starts by warning her sister, but before she can even finish her sentence, she's gasping for air from Yuki's lightning-fast attack. She has no clue where it came from, but gathers herself to rewind time by 5 seconds. Time rewinds to the very start of the match, but Himari can tell that Izuma's getting tired. Luckily for them, they planned ahead in case they couldn't finish her with a single blow. Izuma prepares to find out if their first attack was a fluke, and thinks about how Himari doesn't seem to have realized that her time manipulation ability has gotten stronger. Izuma points out that little sisters can never be big sisters, and uses her ability called Prime Time. Himari doesn't give her sister any time, and has Yuki use an insanely fast attack. Izuma manages to use the golden hour to rewind time back 5 seconds to just before the attack. Just as they enter Izuma's attack range, she then freezes time for 5 seconds. Unfortunately for her, she notices that they got out of her range, and Izuma's done to realize that they are switching tactics on purpose. Himari's glad to see that they made her sister waste her ability, so she tells Yuki to stick to the plan. Spectators are amazed to see Yuki moving faster than a speeding bullet, and it becomes clear that Himari is trying to confuse Izuma, as they're just running in circles. Yuki can feel in his bones how desperately Himari wants to win, and he reiterates how he must help her defeat Izuma. Yuki turns up the speed, and their little cheering section cheers them on. Izuma pulls out a gun specifically modified for us in Mato, but our boy Yuki is just way too fast in this form. Izuma's becoming more and more annoyed, but Yuki's pleased that they're throwing her off balance, just like they planned. Izuma watches and is amused that this fight is actually turning out to be a good one. Everyone thought that Yuki's servitude was reserved for just Kyouka, but it's clear now that he's able to devote himself to a new master. As the two fight, Himari's amazed to see that Yuki's fighting so hard for her. He is trying much harder than she expected, so she determines that she must apologize for giving him such a hard time before. However, first they must win the fight. Himari reminds herself that Izuma can use Golden Hour instantly. However, she has to strike her weird pose first. The second they see her starting the pose, they decide to either attack or retreat. Beyond that, they can tell whether or not she has already used her abilities based on her behavior. If she seems tired all of a sudden, it's proof that she just rewound time. If not, then they need to avoid her, as they dodge bullets. Himari determines that Izuma can only use her ability a few more times at best, since it's a huge drain on her energy. If they can just make her waste it, then they will surely win. Izuma already knows exactly what Himari is thinking and has figured out her strategy. This being the case, she decides to finally use her trump card. Himari assumes that it's another golden hour and that they are out of range. She is wrong, however, as Izuma uses prime time to freeze time for 10 seconds. This freezes a much larger area, capturing everyone, and Himari has no way to escape. Now the evil Izuma vows to defeat her sister so she can bring her back home and make her life a living hell. She fires several bullets at her sister just before the 10-second period ends. Once the time is up, everything begins to move again, and the bullets strike our heroes. No one even saw what happened, as they all thought Himari was winning the fight, but she is now down for the count. Azuma then explains her prime time ability, but by striking the ultimate pose, she's able to double the amount of time she can control. The only downside was that it took a few seconds longer than Golden Hour to activate. Azuma knew that her sister was getting a hang of her other pose, so she didn't have any other choice. Everyone watching this is stunned since they didn't know that Azuma could freeze time for an entire 10 seconds. Himari can't believe that her sister has hidden this ability, but Azuma explains that a genius like her only gets more brilliant over time. Not including that in her calculations was Himari's downfall. Our announcer points out that Himari was able to take the upper hand due to Yuki's speed, but Azuma ruined all of that with her trump card. Unleashing her prime time ability is what completely turned the tables. Nei fears for her friend, but Shushu knows that the fight isn't over yet. They cheer their friend on and encourage Himari to show everyone what their squadron is made of. Things aren't going so well, and Azuma knows Himari's learning ability too well. Azuma explains that when Himari's learning power adapts an ability that comes with a cost attached, she can't execute a skill switch until the price is paid. That is why Himari can't just change abilities mid-match. Azuma really likes to kick her opponents while they're down, as she reminds Himari of the past. She reminds her sister that she was never able to meet expectations when it came to important things. This time is no different, as Himari has no way to counter Azuma's primetime ability. She demands that Himari give up, and Himari begins to wonder if things will just go the way they always do. Himari wonders if all her effort was in vain, but Yuki points out that Azuma is just trying to get in their heads. He tells Himari to look at Azuma's face and point out how exhausted she is. Azuma is clearly upset, and Yuki predicts that she won't even be able to use her ability again. Yuki declares that he would be ashamed if his master did something as stupid as quitting while they were so close to victory. Himari tells him that he looks pretty exhausted himself, and he has a real smart mouth for a slave. Himari's confidence has been restored, and she promises to punish Yuki after this is all over. Himari's friends cheer her on as they have finally got back up, and it's clear that the fight's climax is finally approaching. Azuma prepares her weapon and tells Himari to stop with her shameful behavior. There is no messing with Himari's mind anymore, as she can see things clearly now. She points out that in their squadron, staying strong and fighting to the end isn't shameful behavior at all. Azuma thinks about how she thought that breaking Himari's spirit now would make it easier to train her later on, but things have not gone that way. Yuki and Himari prepare to use a move that they practiced, so Azuma strikes her golden hour pose. Yuki's body emits a blinding light, but Azuma shocks, and she has already struck her pose. She rewinds time 5 seconds anyway, prepared to end the fight, but she is even more stunned to see plain old Yuki in front of her. She can't see Himari anywhere, but time is running out on her ability, so she fires several bullets at him. Everyone is then stunned when Azuma takes damage, and they see that Himari is on the ground. Azuma didn't think that Himari was so desperate to win that she would sacrifice everything, and she collapsed. Everyone is at a complete loss for words, but Himari strikes a victory pose. Himari's officially announced a winner, and everyone celebrates. Kyouka explains that Himari used the flash and smoke from Yuki's reverse transformation to blind Azuma. She is amazed by her second-in-command and compliments her on her strategy. Everyone stops cheering when they realize that Yuki is in bad shape, but Kyouka tells them that there is no need to worry. Yuki regains consciousness after getting shot and is told that usually these kinds of injuries are life-threatening. However, since he sustained them inside Gina's barrier, they will heal up as good as new. Yuki is healed almost instantly, and he is amazed by Gina's power. Himari shoves him off her now that he is okay, but he reminds her that he just regained consciousness. The two smile, as they realize that they really just pulled off that difficult victory. Himari acknowledges that he worked really hard, and she helps her boy up. Azuma regains consciousness as well and thinks about how Himari used to be. She remembers how her sister caught a nasty cold right before entrance exams because she worked herself to the bone. Azuma considers Himari an overachiever and thinks she is naive. However, now she realizes that she was wrong. Azuma confronts Himari, and our boy Yuki has no clue what to do. Azuma surprisingly admits that Himari has gotten stronger and promises to treat her better. She wants Himari to return home, but Himari declines. As the 7th Squadron is where she belongs now, there is nothing that can be said to bring her back. so Azuma is crushed. Afterwards, the two fighters recover from battle, and Himari rewards Yuki with a kiss. Elsewhere, Izumo goes over the fight with Azuma. Izumo explains that this is Yuki's first fight against a human, so it's likely that he subconsciously held back his attacks. This being the case, Yuki's first direct hit would have normally killed Azuma instantly. Izumo reminds Azuma to never underestimate her opponents since she didn't finish them off after using prime time. Izumo's final comment is about Yuki. She is amazed by how he just kept on pushing himself over and over, only to sacrifice himself in the end. Outside, we learn that it's Shushu's turn to fight next. But Himari and Yuki haven't returned yet. Shushu is eager to impress Yuki with her skills as well, so she goes to get. They are inside the door. Himari tells Yuki that he's the main reason she was able to defeat her sister, and she gives him another kiss. Himari apologizes for being so mean to him and says that boys might not be so bad. Himari points out that the kisses are nothing more than just the price of using the ability. And Shushu, shocked to hear this for the first time. Outside, Azuma apologizes for losing her match. Her failure means that it's up to Sahara to win for them now. But Sahara couldn't be more calm. Sahara is confident she will win, but we see that there are also some uninvited guests near. Round 2 is Shushu versus Sahara, and they both specialize in hand-to-hand combat. Shushu wants to impress Yuki with her skills and hopes that he can give her some praise afterwards. For losing, Azuma is tasked with being a cheerleader, and Sahara promises to make her friends proud. The two fighters decide to hold off on using their abilities, so their battle begins with some serious hand-to-hand combat. Shushu instantly slams Sahara to the ground, but Sahara manages to eventually suplex her right back. Shushu is just getting started, but Sahara is already exhausted and declares that it's time for them to start using their abilities. Sahara's friends wonder how many she will be using of something, and they predict that she will use 3. Kyouka thinks about how both of their abilities center around physical attacks, and Azuma predicts that Sahara will end the match shortly. Shushu turns into a giant, and Sahara uses her ability called Mad Sheep. She then says the word 3 before dodging an attack, and she declares that paper beats rock while smacking Shushu right across her big, giant face. Sahara's Mad Sheep ability allows her to boost her strength for the precise amount of time she specifies in advance. This has a 1-minute minimum and a 60-minute maximum. The shorter the amount of time, she says, the stronger she gets. However, her ability has a mandatory 3-minute cooldown period. The powered of Blondie lands some attacks, and she points out that Shushu's large size makes her an easy target. Sahara lands a devastating blow, and Shushu worries about disappointing Yuki. Sahara wants her to give up, but Shushu explains that she's just warming up. Sahara admires that attitude, and Shushu can't even really explain why she feels so determined. A look into the past shows that Shushu was never interested in romance with some dude. She always hoped for something more interesting and decided that she would never be bored if she joined the Demon Defense Force in Mato. Her friends told her that she would understand the value of a relationship one day, and she does not want Yuki to watch her as she does some serious damage to Sahara. Sahara tries to suggest that Shushu shrink down for better mobility, but that sounds like a snooze fest to the thrill-seeking Shushu. Shushu likes to go big or go home, so she does the opposite of Sahara's suggestion and grows even more. No one saw this turn of events coming, and Shushu slams her gigantic body onto Sahara. Sahara is not to be underestimated, as she is holding her own. Shushu grabs her and points out how she was just too big to dodge this time. Shushu ruthlessly smashes her into the ground, and they celebrate that she won the match. Gina begins a down count, but everyone is shocked to see that Sahara is not only still in the fight, she's also now powering up. Azuma explains that if Sahara loses consciousness while her ability is still active, her heightened killer instincts will take control of her body. She will attack enemies and allies alike, but it's the cause of such immense power that she is able to sleep anytime, anywhere. And this is her hidden power. The unconscious Sahara then absolutely destroys Shushu, and a down count now begins for her. Unfortunately, Shushu can't recover from the powerful attack, and Sahara is announced as the winner. Gina patches her all up, and Shushu apologizes for losing. Kyouka makes her feel better by saying they can work on improving later, and Shushu leaves to change clothes as she leaves. She begins to cry, since she looks like a fool in front of Yuki. Yuki overhears her and goes to try to offer her a drink, Since he is the caretaker of the dorm, Shushu would rather he erase her memory of the pitiful loss. But he unfortunately doesn't have that kind of power. He acknowledges that it must be tough to lose, but he doesn't think the fight was pitiful. Yuuki actually wishes he could have seen more of her awesome wrestling moves, and this makes Shushu feel a lot better. Shushu has him close his eyes and surprises Yuuki with a kiss. Yuuki has no clue why she would do that, so she explains that she just wanted to follow the shock of losing with an even bigger shock. However, she thinks about how she can't tell him how she really feels until she gets him to like her more. Outside, Nei informs Kyouka that she doesn't sense any anomalies nearby. That changes very quickly, as she has tried to find someone who looks right at her. This mysterious chick is somehow able to speak to Nei and tells her to say hello to the others for her. She has a less friendly message as well, and it's that a real battle will begin now. Before Nei can even explain anything, a bunch of Shuki emerge from the ground. Gina assures everyone that her barrier is impenetrable, but everyone is shocked when another mysterious person arrives. His name is Ren, and he is some type of humanoid. Ren unleashes a powerful attack and shocks everyone when it starts breaking Gina's barrier. The exhibition matches were called off immediately, and Kyouka had Azumo take the non-combatants back to the door. Ren is eager to eliminate them all, so Kyouka has all the fighters prepare for battle. She instructs everyone to destroy all the hollows from Bleach, and starts off by sending one of the big ones back to Rico. Mundo, Shushu, and Yuuki return outside, and Shushu wastes no time jumping into battle. She already feels way better, but Sahara must jump in to protect her, and the two decide to work together. Ren realizes that they aren't his target, and Himari isn't either. He finds Himari quite annoying, however, so he uses a powerful attack on her. Izuma just manages to rescue her, and the two sisters realize that Ren is going to be a dangerous opponent. They signal to each other that they have thought of a plan, and Himari takes off running. Ren commends Izuma for saving Himari, but Izuma vows to make him pay for trying to hurt her sister. Himari finds Kyouka and Yuuki and is surprisingly asked to mount Yuuki with her. Yuuki has never had two people mount him before, but they all decide to give it a try. Yuuki kisses Himari's hand, and Kyouka predicts that with two masters, Yuuki will take on a more powerful form. Yuuki then bursts with power and begins a whole new transformation. Yuuki is a whole other demon now, and he can feel the power coursing through his body. It's time to show what his new form can do, and Yuuki is certain that he can replicate the move Yoba used on them. Yuuki channels his energy and unleashes an insanely powerful blast. The girls can't believe what the power of having two masters can do, but they are confident that they can beat the entire swarm of Shuki. Now, Himari's worried about her sister, but Kyouka confidently tells her that she will be okay since they have Azumo nearby. They inform Azumo that there are two more humanoids. Izuma returns to the battlefield and refuses to be outshined by the 7th Squadron. Gina complains about not being able to see the fight, but it can't be helped as the dorm has the strongest barrier. This is like torture for her, but Nei lets her link up to her mind so she can watch. The fight shows Kyouka destroying some demons, and Gina cheers everyone on. Shuki cannot be beaten with normal weapons. The only way to counter them is with the abilities granted by the Peaches, and by using weapons that are specially made to be imbued with the Peaches' power. The only exception to this is Kyouka. She trained atop a sacred mountain to perfect her own unique style of combat that destroys creatures. Through sheer training, she gained the skills necessary to defeat Shuki without relying on her Peach ability. This is why she was able to become a commander, and she is at her strongest right now. Nearby, Izuma is using her time manipulation ability, but only to evade Ren's attacks. Izuma is stunned to see the immense power that these humanoids are capable of, and she eventually falls victim to one of his attacks. Ren points out that Izuma can't do her time manipulation pose without her arm, but he is wrong, as Izuma can pose no matter what the situation is. Izuma rewinds time 5 seconds to when she still had both arms and dodges the attack. This time, she is still in pretty bad shape, and Ren prepares a terrifying attack to finish her off. The moment intensifies as Izuma prepares to be killed, but all the tension breaks as Izuma appears out of nowhere. Everyone involved is stunted to see her appear out of thin air, and she tells Izuma that she will take it from here. Brown doesn't like how casual Izuma was being and reminds her that his entire army is closing in on her. Izuma finds this statement humorous as the dust clears, and she reveals that she has already neutralized any Shuki that might try to interfere with their fight. Brown is stunned to see that he is now surrounded by his destroyed army, and Izuma points out how there should still be 2 officer-level humanoids somewhere. However, she decides to leave that for later, as she would just take care of Ren right now. Ren acknowledges Izumo's power, but still has confidence as he looks forward to a fun fight. The fight rages on, but there seems to be an endless number of Shuki. Kyouka shows her might as commander and takes the lead. Shushu and Sahara handle some Shuki as well, and Izuma watches Izumo prepare to fight Ren. Ren is disappointed to have only encountered 2 opponents, which makes it clear that he is targeting commanders only. Brown declares that he will end the fight in the blink of an eye and unleashes a powerful lightning attack. The huge beam does massive damage, and he is once again disappointed to see how easy it was to defeat one of their leaders. He's, of course, shocked when Izuma appears behind him to kick him right in the head. This guy actually managed to dodge the attack, and he reveals that her efforts are useless. Even if she were able to land an attack, his skin is as hard as steel, and he wouldn't feel a single thing. He declares that he is invincible, but Izuma dodges his attacks using some kind of portal. She then uses one of these portals to attack, and Roan is stunned to see that she somehow managed to cause damage to his arm. Gina admires her leader's abilities and points out how both commanders were able to come up with a plan to wipe out an invading army instantly. Brown has had enough of this boring fight and begins to power up as he has finally decided to get serious. He sends his power into the sky and uses an attack he is sure she won't be able to avoid. Yuki fears that she has been eliminated, but Kyouka knows better and tells him to just watch. Ren triumphantly declares his victory, but he's being short-sighted, as Izumo is surprisingly still alive. She uses a portal to land a punch, and Ren gets completely confused when she also seems to have teleported him with just one touch. Ren is now hopelessly falling through the air, and Gina celebrates her leader's godlike ability. Izumo is able to manipulate the space around her, and it's called a Minomatori. Izumo uses her ability to open another portal, making Ren disappear. Izumo declares that his impenetrable defense doesn't matter one bit when she can rip apart the fabric of space. Yuki is in awe of how the 2 leaders completely wiped out an army, and Himari points out that this is how all commanders are. They are on a whole other level. On top of that, Kyouka wants to be in charge of all the commanders, so her goal seems impossible. Yuki's doubts are put to rest when Kyouka confidently declares that she will become Supreme Commander no matter what. Kyouka tells the other girls to handle any remaining Shuki, and Yuki realizes that he can't just stand around admiring Kyouka's strength. He reminds himself that he came to Mato to be a hero and declares that he will join them. Afterwards, the group discussed how they were able to win the battle. The problem is that, according to Nei's report, there were other enemy generals somewhere nearby. Our group diligently looked for them, but they couldn't find a single trace of these other generals. Nei apologizes for detecting them too late, but they just assumed that these generals had some kind of cloaking ability. They tell Nei not to dwell on it, since her warning kept them from getting blindsided by their attackers. Izumo calls Yuki a little slave and tells him that he stole the show on the battlefield. He has won over Gina as well, since she now realizes that boys can sometimes be talented too. She is his biggest fan now and even wants an autograph. Himari then approaches her sister and thanks her for coming to her rescue. Izuma keeps her cool and simply explains that letting the enemy defeat Himari would bring shame to their family. Izuma keeps putting on her act as she states that this was her only reason for saving her. She offers to train Himari up if she comes back home with her, but Himari reminds her that the 7th Squadron is her home. The 2 commanders decide to call the match draw, but they are disappointed since they were looking forward to their one-on-one fight. The 2 squadrons part ways, but Izumo leaves with a mysterious smile. It's time to relax, but Yuki did eliminate a lot of Shuki, so he is rewarded for his efforts. Later that night, Nei makes a drawing of what the hidden enemy generals look like. The drawing is quite impressive, and it helps them realize that these generals are not the humanoids they encountered last time. Yuki thinks back to the opponent they are talking about, and he can't help but think about how she looks like his sister. He wonders if she belongs to another group, or perhaps there's some other reason that she wasn't with these enemies. Our boy finally gets some much-needed sleep, But we see that Izumo uses her portals for things other than fighting as she appears to watch Yuki. The next day, Yuki, Kyouka, and Himari go to visit the 6th Squadron's dorms. Izumo greets them as the two commanders have important matters to discuss. Kyouka tells Himari to get acquainted with the members of the other squadron, and Izumo encourages her to really look around. As for our boy, Yuki is confident in his role as the squad's caretaker and knows that his job is to help out in any way he can. This works out perfectly since some of Izumo's troops are out right now, including their own caretaker. Yuki declares that he has their backs and vows to do his best. Our boy Yuki seems excited as he gets to do what he enjoys, and he starts off by cleaning. Unfortunately, there isn't much to do as the entire dorm is pretty clean already. Yuki's disappointed after getting himself all hyped up, but he luckily finds one stain. He does some deep analysis on it and determines that he has the perfect cleaner to get the job done. Next up is laundry, but he has to calm himself down as he still hasn't gotten used to doing it. Back home, Shushu wonders what Yuki is doing but reminds herself that she will wait to tell Yuki her feelings until he likes her more. She decides to use this time to improve herself, and she settles on doing that by cleaning up. Back at the other dorm, Yuki prepares to deliver Izumo her clean uniform, but he fears what she might say when she sees him. He's relieved to see that she doesn't seem to be there, and he decides to just leave the uniform in her room. This ends up being a regrettable decision, since things get a bit weird when he opens a door to find that Izuma has pictures of Himari everywhere. Azuma's true love for her sister is evident, but it's a bit too much. Our boy, Yuki, gets out of there as fast as he can. Yuki then finds Sahara fast asleep, but somehow ends up in a strange spot. Sahara apologizes afterwards, and they find a very still Himari. They wonder what's wrong with her, so she explains that she's just waiting to speak to her sister. Azuma's busy getting shredded by lifting some heavy weights, and Himari wonders if she does this all the time. She does, and Sahara reveals that Izuma trained like this well before the exhibition match was even a fort. Himari is amazed that her sister is pushing herself even harder than she used to, and Sahara wonders if Himari looks up to her big sister. Himari points out that her personality stinks, but concedes that Izuma does well academically and athletically. Himari has always thought that she could learn a thing or two from her big sister. Sahara explains that she's a big believer in the theory that someone's teachability is based on their knowledge and nature. In Himari's case, her desire to learn from Izuma is perhaps what gave her the ability to learn and use other people's powers. As for Izuma, her ability to control time might come from her desire to spend time with her little sister. It makes a lot more sense than Himari's willing to admit, and Sahara encourages Himari to talk to her sister more often. Yuki agrees, so Himari goes to see her. Izuma keeps up her tough act, but it's clear that they're getting along better than before. Sahara thinks that showing Himari Azuma's room would be the quickest way to fix the relationship, but Yuki thinks it would be best to keep that room a secret. Nearby, Kyouka explains that they should proactively search out the humanoids. They haven't been making any moves recently, so Kyouka thinks the investigation should start near the crater where they first appeared. Kyouka points out that Izumo eliminated one of the 4 confirmed humanoids, but Izumo actually isn't so sure about that. Elsewhere, we find that Ren is actually still alive. He has fully recovered, and his humanoid buddies point out how close he was to dying. We then see what happened just before Ren was sucked up into the portal as Shikoku rescued him. The delusional Ren says that he could have kept fighting after that, but Shikoku points out that the battle was lost when he allowed them to destroy his army. The lolly's name is Shikoku, and she does a little review of the events. First, she fought the 3rd Squadron to evaluate their enemy's capabilities. It was a piece of cake for her, but the 3rd Squadron leader wasn't with them. That is why the goal of their most recent attack was to experience the power of a commander. These commanders blew her expectations out of the water. Ren wanted to launch a full-scale attack on the Demon Defense Force, but the commanders proved that they couldn't do it. Ren still thinks they can win, but the other humanoid agrees with the Lally. With that settled, it's time that they go with Shikoku's plan. Hers is simply to attack when they have gathered all 8 of their people and operate in the shadows until then. Ren hates being called people, but Shikoku can't help but be interested in them. Humans are incredibly entertaining to her, and they are far more complex than she ever could have imagined. Kyouka's meeting with Izumo comes to an end, but Izumo has one more thing on her mind. It's in regards to personnel, and Izumo shocks Kyouka when she has to have a little slave. Kyouka is, of course, stunned to hear that Izumo wants Yuki. and she explains that it's because her personal life is a bit dull. That is why she wants a pet who can help her relax after a hard day's work. Kyouka clearly doesn't want to do it, but Izumo tries to make her an offer she can't refuse. If she hands the little slave over, Izumo will endorse her in the next Supreme Commander election. This is a really big deal, but Kyouka still refuses. She declares that she will become Supreme Commander on her own, not by leveraging one of her subordinates. Their meeting is over, but Izumo would like to know if she can date Yuki in her free time. Afterwards, Kyouka tells Yuki everything. He is busy being the 7th Squadron's caretaker, but Kyouka concedes that she can't control what he does in his free time. Yuki thinks about all his tasks and just now realizes that he doesn't actually have much free time. That night, Yuki goes to rest and thinks about how he's supposed to become a hero, not a pet. Just then, Izumo comes to see him and tells him to keep quiet. She admits to having a crush on him and would like Yuki to be her boyfriend. Yuki is stunned since he thought she just wanted him as a pet, but she actually wants a real relationship with him. Izumo was won over by his bravery and his housekeeping skills. Izumo shows what she can do with her ability, but Yuki tells her that he needs time to decide if he wants a relationship or not. Just as Shushu barges in wanting to play video games with Yuki, she is stunned by what she sees. The girls all meet up and scold Izumo for sneaking into the door. Kyouka agreed not to interfere with their lives, but Izumo abusing her power to pounce on Yuki is not okay. Their meeting is over, so Izumo says goodbye to Yuki and heads home. Yuki is exhausted, so he's told to get some rest as they will be having early morning training the next day. The next morning, Kyouka reveals that they will surely have to fight the humanoids again. In preparation for this, she would like to try practicing how to lend out her slave ability. It would allow the others to ride Yuki in slave form. It has become pretty clear that Yuki's attributes change based on who's riding him. The more transformations he's able to achieve, the more weapons they will have available to them. Nei is first up, so she gets on his back and takes a hold of his chains. Nei gives the chains a good pull, and Yuki begins to transform. He achieves a completely new form, but he can't really describe anything about it right now. Yuki makes sure that it's okay if he gives it a test, so Nei prepares herself by holding on tight. Yuki does some shadowboxing and can instantly tell that he doesn't feel as strong as the other transformations. He also doesn't move as fast as his Whirlwind transformation. However, his senses feel sharper than ever. His eyesight and his hearing are also enhanced. Yuki tries channeling his energy into his eyes and shockingly finds that he has X-ray vision. He apologizes for seeing things he shouldn't be seeing, so they all realize what's going on. Kyouka is amazed by his power and realizes that this ability can be used to sniff out hidden Shuki. However, it comes at a great cost. Unlike when Himari uses her learning ability to borrow Yuki, lending him out directly takes a considerable amount of strength. Yuki transforms back to normal, and Nei thanks him and gives him a peck on the cheek as a reward. Nei apologizes for being so forward, but this helps Kyouka realize something. The one responsible for giving Yuki his reward is the borrower, not the lender. Kyouka apologizes to Nei since she assumed she would be responsible for rewarding him when lending her ability. Shushu gets an idea and eagerly declares that it's her turn to transform Yuki. Kyouka wants Shushu to be sure about her decision, so she might have to one day use it in battle. If the fighting ever gets intense, then her reward might end up being more extreme than Nei was. Shushu actually likes this idea, but she hides it by declaring that defeating Shuki is their #1 priority. Shushu hops on his back and takes a hold of his chains. Yuki transforms once again, and he can instantly tell that this transformation is much stronger than the others. However, he is much bulkier and much more sluggish. Kyouka agrees that he's definitely powerful, but she doesn't think it's worth lending her ability for such a simple upgrade. Shushu doesn't want her to rush to conclusions and points out that there's a good chance that if she goes into giant mode, Yuki will grow with her. Shushu gives it a try, but she ends up crushing the normal-sized Yuki when he isn't able to grow with her. Shushu gets even more disappointed when her reward just ends up being that she has to bandage him up. That transformation was pretty underwhelming, so Kyouka decides that they won't be using it in battle anytime soon. Yuki is worried about Kyouka using too much power, but she says that she will just have to get used to it. Yuki's transformation with Nei as his master seems like it could be useful, so they will focus on developing it more. Nei heads off to get ready for school, and Yuki wonders what her reason is for joining the Demon Defense Force. Nei is ready for school, so Yuki offers to walk her there. Nei allows it, since Nei is his superior and she would like for him to get to know her better. The two of them go through a portal, and they are surprised to hear that Yuuki wants to know why she joined. Going to school while being in the Demon Defense Force has a lot of responsibility, but Nei thinks it's worth it. She reveals that it gives her the best chance to find her parents. Nei explains that one day her parents just disappeared, and all signs pointed to it being a Mato mishap. There are rumors of people receiving phone calls or catching glimpses of people that disappeared during Mato mishaps. Yuuki has heard of these rumors and now understands that she joined the force in the hopes of finding her parents. Nei believes that her feelings manifested as her ability after eating a peach, since it's able to help her find things. Yuuki assures her that her parents are alive somewhere, just like his sister is. Back in Mato, Izumo lays down a message she received from the Supreme Commander. Even if they find the humanoid Shuki, they are not to engage with them until the Supreme Commander gives the order. It's pretty obvious that she wants to speak with them and perhaps assess how intelligent they are. If it goes well, they might be able to solve the Shuki problem and prevent Mato mishaps. Kyouka's against the whole idea and points out that these humanoids are the type to attack first and ask questions later. She doubts that humanoids will just want to talk to them, and she thinks the commander's just being naive. Izumo concedes that it would probably just evolve into battle anyway, and she promises that her squadron will cooperate with Kyouka no matter what. Yuuki returns home, and he is shocked to see that Izumo is there. Izumo teases him a bit for being nervous, but just then alarms sound off. Himari and Shushu are out on patrol, and they report the appearance of numerous gateways. Kyouka tells Yuuki that they must help the girls, and Izumo offers to take them. Izumo's ability teleports them immediately, but Kyouka tells her to step back as this falls under their jurisdiction. She has Yuuki transform, but he can tell that she's in a bad mood. Kyouka takes back what she said about not interfering with his personal life and forbids him from fawning over another squad's commander. Yuuki is shocked, and she declares that he is her slave only. The two jump into battle, and Kyouka starts off with a technique she has never used before. Shushu watches in amazement, but Himari gets attacked. Shushu just manages to help her, but they see that a new type of Shuki has appeared. Yuuki attacks it, but the thing heals immediately, so they will have to try something stronger. They use an attack called the Mighty Blade Cross, and it manages to slice this new Shuki in half. Nearby, we see that Shikoku is watching them, and she is disappointed that her little experiment failed. She is just toying with them, and she points out that humans seem to like combining and modifying stuff too. Her humanoid body can't understand what goes on in her head, but Shikoku just wonders what she should try next. The battle is over, and Yuuki compliments Kyouka on getting him all hyped up. Izumo returns home and declares that her life will no longer be dull. Not that Yuuki is. Sometime later, Yuuki and Kyouka get to work, eliminating several Shuki. They use some new chain combo attacks, and the fight ends. Another Shuki appears out of nowhere, but Yuuki quickly takes it out. Yuuki feels great when Kyouka compliments him on a job well done, and he thinks Hubble will definitely help him get stronger. He just wants to be strong enough to protect her, and this train of thought causes his reward to just be carrying Kyouka. Kyouka can't seem to ever figure out what Yuuki wants, and they share a kiss. Afterward, the girls all talk about Yuuki like he's some kind of pet robot. He follows orders to a T, and he seeks out the most efficient method for taking action on his own. Izumo is there as well, so the others tell her to go home already. Izumo doesn't have to return to the dorm just yet, but Yuuki can tell that Kyouka is getting upset when Izumo wonders how he became so talented. Yuuki explains that it was actually his sister who taught him a lot of stuff when he was younger. The others can tell how much he admires his sister and would like to know what she was like. Yuuki thinks back to when he was a kid and was encountered by a bully. The bully's big brother was an even worse bully, but Yuuki's sister appeared to save him. The bully ended up turning his attention to her, but this didn't go the way he thought it would. Yuuki's sister worried about him when she heard a kid getting choked out, but this just ended up being Yuuki showing his MMA skills to the bully. Yuuki explained that she taught him how to wrestle, and he declared that he is not a wimp. She could not have been more proud and gave Yuuki an A. All the girls admire how good of an older sister she was, and Kyouka gives Yuuki the rest of the day off. Izumo heads home, and Yuuki leaves to take a bath. Just then, Nei detects that someone is endangered nearby, and they all spring into action. A look outside reveals that someone is running for their life, but the girls arrive soon after to save them. Himari tells this person that everything is fine now, but she is shocked when she sees who it is and gets attacked. Coco introduces herself and declares that it's time for suffering. Shushu realizes that this is another humanoid, and Himari reveals that she only managed to survive because she blocked the attack with a shield. Coco is impressed, but she doesn't plan on giving them a break, and she calls forth several Shuki. Himari pleads for Coco to stop, but Coco is just shocked that she knows her name. She wonders if it's because of Himari's peach ability, but Shushu points out that Coco announced her name herself. Himari explains that they want to negotiate with the humanoids, but Coco has no interest in listening and just wants to crush them. Back at the dorm, Yuuki notices that he has cuts and bruises everywhere. Things aren't all bad, as he realizes that his muscles are coming along nicely. He encourages himself to keep making gains, but Kyouka walks in on him and tells him to prepare for battle. Back at the fight, Himari quickly realizes that her bullets are not able to penetrate one of the monsters. Coco explains that it has extra tough armor, but she is shocked when Himari reveals that she can adapt too. This new giant weapon of hers fires a powerful beam, and it causes massive damage. Himari must cancel her ability to dodge Coco's counterattack, and Coco makes it clear that this is just fun for her. Shushu finishes up a couple of small fry, but one Shuki proves to be a problem. Another humanoid emerges from the beast and strikes Shushu. Kyouka and Yuuki rush to their friends, but they're intercepted by the humanoid they met before. She takes a bite out of a peach, and Yuuki must dodge her attack. The humanoid demands that Yuuki stop moving, and he shockingly obeys her order. Yuuki is then captured, and Kyouka gets surrounded. Kyouka manages to eliminate Shuki, but she finds that the enemy has left with Yuuki. Kyouka informs the others and explains that Yuuki must have been their target from the start. Everyone is worried about him, but Kyouka points out that they are both wounded. She decides that they will have to regroup at the dorm and decide what to do next. Another quick look into the past shows when Yuki's sister went missing. Back to the present. Yuuki wakes up to a strange noise, and he is pinned down by a humanoid. Aoba walks in and is immediately furious. She assumes that the other humanoids took his clothes off, but they explain that this is just how he was after he transformed back into a human. Coco had the ability to heal, so Yuuki realized that all his wounds and scars were gone. Aoba's attitude quickly changes, and Yuuki is now more sure than ever that she is his sister. She embraces him as they are both happy to see each other, and Yuuki can't believe that she has been alive this entire time. The two share a nice moment, but Yuuki wonders how she turned into a humanoid. Aoba decides that it would just be easier to show him where they are and what they are, so she has them put on some clothes. They head outside, where Aoba shows him the hidden village. There are no peach trees in the area, so the Demon Defense Force never goes there. There are other former humans, like Aoba, there, and she explains that 20 people call this place home. Coco and Nian introduce themselves, and Yuuki wonders if all Shuki used to be humans. This is not the case, as the Shuki are just monsters, and humanoids are a special case. An accident is what caused the humanoids in the first place, but their souls are still human. Aoba declares that Yuuki can live with her in this place, and assures him that he won't have to be treated like a slave anymore. Yuuki tries to explain that they have no reason to hide since they are all still part human. He is sure that he can protect them, and pleads with them to talk to the Demon Defense Force. The humanoids all become furious, and Coco declares that the Demon Defense Force is their enemy. Aoba points out that they enslaved him, and they can't be allies because of the way their hierarchy is structured. Yuuki is shocked to see how much their attitude has changed, and he wonders what exactly happened. Back at the door, Shushu gets all bandaged up, but she can't help but be worried about Yuuki. Nei has not been able to find him, and she even asks for help from the other squads. She decides to widen her search area, but Shushu just wonders what Kyouka is doing since she has just been locked up in her room since they got back. Himari assumes that it's because she is under orders from the Supreme Commander not to make contact with the humanoids. Himari calms Shushu down by pointing out that the humanoid's entire goal was to capture Yuuki. They probably have a specific goal in mind, so he should be safe. Himari assumes that Kyouka has a plan, but we see that this is not the case, as Kyouka is actually really upset. She thinks about how Yuuki obeyed someone else's order during the fight, and she vows to make him pay when he gets back. Just then, she senses something, and we return to Yuuki. The humanoids are still really upset, so Yuuki changes the subject, and that's how Aoba knew he was. In Mato, she explains that she is able to sense his presence as his big sister. Our boy Yuuki is starving, so Aoba runs off to get him some food. The humanoids agree with Yuuki that working with Aoba can be stressful at times, but they explain that everyone loves her. Coco starts snacking on a mushroom, so the starving Yuuki gives it a good sniff. This proves to be a bad decision. However, as he begins to hallucinate, Yuuki mistakes one of the humanoids for food, and Aoba returns to find her brother in a compromising situation. Back at the door, Kyouka finally emerges from her room. She reveals that her body started moving on its own, which means Yuki's transformation must have ended. Everyone becomes excited as they realize what this means. Kyouka must reward him for transforming, so this practically makes her a living, breathing Yuuki detection radar. Back at the hidden village, Yuuki feels better after eating a meal. Aoba points out how his being there feels like old times, and things are just beginning to sink in for her. Yuuki takes a look at the Mato peach she is holding and points out that she never ate one back in the real world. She points out that it's not an easy decision when someone has a lot of other responsibilities, and a lot of people actually choose not to eat them. Yuuki thought that her powers came from the peaches, and Aoba reveals that there actually is a connection. That is because the peaches are what caused them to look like they do now. Back at the door, the girls prepare to leave. Nei will be left behind, but the girls from the other squad arrive to help. They all head out, and Kyouka declares that their mission to rescue Yuuki begins now. I appreciate you viewing my anime recap, Unruly Family. Please let me know what you think about Chain Soldier by liking, sharing, subscribing, and leaving a comment.